solution. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes to WUB. And all the things that must be happen and not got blue skies. And nothing that people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice of opinion and place your calling. WUB. Get up, make every day count. Don't waste it, people. Do your part, play your role, get where you need to. You can tune in for work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait till the time calling? It's the show with no matter even if you're at home. Just call in. WUB. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice of opinion and place your calling. WUB. Be yourself, see yourself, this is the show, my people. Believe our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel left out, this the vibe we're dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah. No respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes, WUB. And all the things that will happen and not got blue skies. And nothing that people get victimized. Let's work together for better, we got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice of opinion and place your calling. WUB. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice of opinion and place your calling. WUB. Be yourself, see yourself, this is the show, my people. Believe our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel left out, this the vibe we're dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah. No respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes, WUB. And all the things that must happen and not got blue skies. And nothing that people get victimized. Let's work together for better, we got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice of opinion and place your calling. WUB. Get up, make every day count. Don't waste it, people. Do your part, play your role, get where you need to. You can tune in for work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait till the time calling? It's the show with no matter even if you're at home. Just call in. WUB. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice of opinion and place your calling. WUB. Be yourself, see yourself, this is the show, my people. Believe our hopes up to needless reason. Nobody feel left out, this the vibe we're dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah. No respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes, WUB. And all the things that must happen and not got blue skies. And nothing that people get victimized. Let's work together for better, we got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. We gotta keep moving. Na 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 na. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize. Wake up, Belize. Voice you're calling, baby. Wake up, believe, wake up, believe. Wake up, Belize, wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize, we gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize, everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize, voice of opinion and place your calling, baby. Be yourself, see yourself, this is a show my people. Believe our hopes so to needless reason. Nobody feel left out, is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution, yeah. No respect on selfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes to build. And all the things that will happen and not got blue skies. And nothing that people get victimized. Let's work together for better, we got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize, wake up, Belize. Another day is here. Wake up, Belize, we gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize, everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize, voice of opinion and place your calling, baby. Get up, make every day count, don't waste it, people. Do your part, play your role, get where you need to. You can tune in for work or in your vehicle. If you got a problem, pick up the phone. Why wait till the time calling is the show it no matter even if you're at home. Just call in, baby. Wake up, Belize, another day is here. Wake up, Belize, we gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize, everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize, voice of opinion and place your calling, baby. Be yourself, see yourself, this is the show my people. Believe our hopes so to needless reason. Nobody feel left out, is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution, yeah. No respect on selfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes to build. And all the things that will happen and not got blue skies. And nothing that people get victimized. Let's work together for better, we got to unite. Belize, yeah. Wake up, Belize, another day is here. Wake up, Belize, we gotta keep moving, na 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 na. Wake up, Belize, everybody gotta put their time in. Wake up, Belize, voice of opinion and place your calling, baby. Wake up, Belize, another day is here.
All right, welcome. This is WUB, Wake Up Belize, Morning Vibes. It's a Thursday morning. It's the second day of April 2026. My name is Nuri Muhammad, and we welcome you to the program this morning. As you know, we go through certain steps, and this morning I will be the one to read your general forecast this morning, and then we'll look at the news. We'll open up the phone between 7 and 7:30, and then we do have a guest coming in at that time. Stay tuned, and let us first begin with our weather. A moderate east prevail today, sunny with cloudy spells along with a few showers or thunderstorms continuing over the north and offshore areas this morning. Then along some coastal and offshore areas tonight, becoming isolated. The marine conditions east to southeasterly at 10 to 20 knots. The sea state will be choppy. The waves will be 3 to 5 feet. Temperatures today, 85 Fahrenheit along the coast, 89 Fahrenheit inland, and 78 in the hills. The Friday to Friday night is for isolated showers or thunderstorms expected over the Maya Mountains on Friday afternoon and seacoast at night. And the tides. Today's high tide will be at 9:55 and a low tide at 4:47 this afternoon. A high again tonight at 10:50 and another low at 4:34 tomorrow morning. The sunrise today was at 5:46, and the sunset today will be at 6 minutes after 6 o'clock. The moonrise will be at 6:47 tonight, night meaning PM, and the moonset will be at 5:55 tomorrow morning. That's our forecast from the Met Office, and we thank them for it this morning. And now we go to our news.
The first private radio in Belize since 1989, Creme FM presents the news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news. The first private radio in Belize since 1989, Creme FM presents the news. Informative, accurate, current information, local, regional, and international news, weather and sports. And now, the news.
Final modification has been made to the Millennium Challenge Corporation, MCC, Belize Compact. The MCC is a U.S. government-funded development agency that partners with eligible countries to support projects aimed at reducing poverty and promoting economic growth. It was announced on Wednesday that Cabinet approved the proposed modification of the Belize Compact, which features a reallocation of $20 million of the $125 million of the MCC funds from education project to energy project. It means that rather than 80% going to education, it is now only 60%, while the remaining 40% is allocated for the government energy project. The amendments were required after President Trump took office in his second term and mandated a review of all foreign aid. While the Belize Compact was allowed to proceed, amendments were required. At one point, the Prime Minister told Creme and XTV News that the Americans wanted some of the funds to be spent on fossil fuel options. Yesterday, we asked the Foreign Minister of Energy, Honorable Michelle Shabat, if the MCC insisted on that still.
The indication was that the funds were not just limited to renewable sources, and I think that has been expanded so that in the event that we possibly wanted to look at alternative generation sources, we could if we wanted to, but that is not the case. We're really focusing on the 80 megawatts of solar energy, and we're looking at infrastructure, we're looking at the grid to make sure that our system is able to take that up once those come on stream. About 41 million US or so is now being allocated for the energy projects. And included in those, we have settled upon several things. Some of those funds are going to be used to procure selected hardware that are going to be deployed at the hydros to make them more efficient and more reliable. Some funds are also going to be used to procure and also to build some of the interconnection points we're going to be needing for the new generation capacity that we are going to be getting shortly. As you're aware, there's currently an RFQ out for 80 megawatts of solar energy. And some of the funds, in addition, is going to be used for capacity building within the ministry. We're going to use some funds to also draft a new energy act under which we are thinking we're going to subsume the current Electricity Act and make it a little bit more modern and pertinent to all the new sources of energy that we are going to be getting from. And I believe a portion of the funds will also be used to create the grid codes, the distribution grid codes, and so forth, which are needed so that anybody who wants to interact with BL would know what are the standards required by BL and would be able to match those so that there's symmetry between systems, right?
The minister says that the MCC board still has to approve the modification, and he is hopeful that by June of this year, they will start seeing some major movements on the project. The Belize government has also committed to provide counterpart financing to support the compact. The Minister of Public Utilities, Honorable Michelle Shabat, announced in the House of Representatives on Friday, March or February the 6th, that the Prime Minister has ordered a pause in the discussion on BTL to, quote, further engage the public in a genuine, open, and cordial way, and to ensure that the proper regulatory process is followed, end of quote. He further explained that any proposed acquisition of this nature must first be reviewed by the regulatory board. Yesterday, we asked Michelle Shabat if BTL should have been conducting any or an education campaign.
This is a national issue, right? And the more conversations that can be had is always the best way to go, right? Whether or not they could have or should have done something or so on. You know, we always want as broad as possible consultations and conversations when we're dealing with issues of national importance, right? I think critically, the most important thing is that now the PUC has taken it over, and perhaps that is where it should have started, right? They have now taken it over, and now they are the ones who are conducting these consultations and so forth. And being the regulator, I think they are the correct body to be doing it.
The PUC's 1 month deadline to receive comments ends on Monday, April 13th at 5 p.m. Comments can be submitted to info@puc.bz. The subject should be, quote, comments proposed acquisition of SpeedNet communication by Belize Telemedia Limited, end of quote. During the Senate debate, Leader of Government Business, Eamon Courtney, offered a brief introduction warning that the economic fallout from the conflict in the Middle East will not spare Belize and may require the administration to return to the National Assembly with revised figures. In opening key initiatives and areas of economic expansion, he pointed to the continued growth of the cattle export sector and highlighted the significant number of women now active as producers.
And Belize expanded our investment and our activity in the cattle industry. We exported 7,748 head of cattle to Mexico. And due to that, Madam President, we had an increase in value from 12 million in 2024 to 16.3 million in 2025. In addition, 33,910 heads were exported informally to our neighbors, increasing earnings by an additional 60.7 million. That brings a total in 2025, Madam President, of 77 million in earnings from the cattle industry, and it is projected in 2026 that the earning will be approximately 90 million. That is because it is expected that at least 10,000 head of cattle will be exported to Mexico and an additional 37,000 head of cattle to Guatemala. Madam President, I emphasize this sector because it is a growing sector. We look at the number of persons in cattle, 8,159, up from 7,500 in 2024. Over 5,000 of these are small farmers with less than 50 head of cattle, and over 800 are women. The Belize cattle population continues to grow. We have a record high of 208,455 head of cattle in the middle of March 2025. And so, Madam President, it is our assessment that the agriculture sector, which is the backbone of our Belizean economy, which provides food security and foreign exchange earning and significant employment across the breadth of the country, will continue to grow. It is expected to continue to contribute to job creation, foreign exchange earning, Madam President, and most of all, to keep the Belizean people fed.
Every year at the United Nations General Assembly, member states vote on a Cuba-led resolution titled, quote, necessity of ending the economic, commercial, and financial embargo imposed by the United States of America against Cuba, end of quote. For decades, the vote has remained consistent. The vast majority of states vote in favor, with only the United States and Israel opposing it. A handful of abstentions. Support has hovered around 185 to 190 votes in favor. However, that pattern started changing in the past 2 years. In 2025, support fell to 165 votes, while 7 states voted against it, and there were 12 abstentions. Countries voted against the resolution apart from the United States and Israel were Argentina, Hungary, Paraguay, Ukraine, and North Macedonia. The vote comes up again in September. In a recent interview, we asked the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Francis Fonseca, if Belize can expect pressure from the United States to change its vote.
In terms of pressure, I think, yes, it's no secret that every time that resolution comes up for a vote, the United States government, of course, asks countries not to support, to vote no or to abstain. Belize has not changed its position on that issue. So, that, again, that is something that will come up in September. Again, we are watching what is happening in Cuba. As you all know, it's on the public record. The president of Cuba himself has made it public that they are themselves in discussions and with the Americans. We will see what comes out of that. So I think everybody is watching and waiting, we will see how it goes.
That's our morning news package. There's another news update at 12 o'clock, one at 3 o'clock, and at 5:15, a full news broadcast. All this on Creme Radio. Here on XTV, we bring you the entire news package at 6 o'clock this evening. It's 5 minutes now to 7 o'clock. We take a short break, and when we come back, we begin the conversation for this last program for this week, the second day of April 2026.
Informative, accurate, current information. Crem's newscast. Local, regional, and international news. Weather and sports.
At Atlantic Bank, your convenience is our priority. Our contact center is designed to enhance your banking experience. With a wide range of customer service options, you save time and effort. You can easily call in to block or unblock your debit and credit cards, perform account inquiries, and access detailed card information. Whether you need assistance with online banking, merchant support, or general inquiries, our team is ready to help. For added convenience, if all operators are busy, you can leave your number and an operator will return your call as soon as possible to ensure you receive the support you need. Depending on your transaction type, we may need to verify your identity through a set of security questions. And remember, Atlantic Bank will never request your username or password for Atlantic Online via phone call, text, or email. ensuring your personal information remains safe and secure. Our support team is available Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. in both English and Spanish. Simply dial 223-1212. This is a dedicated line for our contact center. Atlantic Bank is committed to providing you with exceptional service and the tools you need to manage your finances conveniently and securely. Take full advantage of our easy-to-use contact center services today.
Atlantic Bank, building the future together.
Smart for everybody. Smart leading everything. Smart give you everything. Smart offer everything. Smart give you everything. North to the east and the south and the west. Smart are the best. Darling, double up my data and give me all the text. In fact, give me a plan for my family. Unlimited calls, so me like it. And Smart make everybody feel happy. Bringing people together, me want it now. Smart got love for everybody. Me want my Smart plan. Want it right now. Me want my Smart plan. Want it right now. More bundles, data plan. Me want my smartphone, internet in my hand. Call me want my Smart plan. Want it right now. Smart. Stay connected. Stay happy.
Oh gosh, I'm say the fretting up of the hair I'm flexing. I'm say the frowning up on me hair is wearing. Whoa.
Attention advertisers, sellers and readers of the Amandala newspaper, please be advised that there will be no online Tuesday issue of the newspaper on Tuesday, March 31st, 2026 and Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. There will only be the Friday issue, which will hit the streets on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026 and Friday, April 10th, 2026. Happy Easter from the management and staff of the Amandala newspaper.
Wake Up Belize, Morning Vibes. It is a Thursday. It is the actual last day of our program for this week in commemoration of the Holy Week, as they call it. Today is the Thursday before the Good Friday. And then there's the Holy Saturday, which for us in Belize, that's a day of special race cross country, the famous cross country. And then there is the Easter Sunday, and then the extra day for us in the Caribbean called Easter Monday. So it's a long, long, long weekend coming up, and we hope that people will be safe. And if you take it as a recreation period, be safe in your recreation. For those who are prayerful and will be involved in the religious services tomorrow, Friday, and on Sunday. And then we hope that you will have a good time with your family during that period. Our number here is 280-5848. We'll be taking phone calls and hearing your concerns. And then at 7:30, we're expecting the Minister of Health, the Honorable Kevin Bernard, who will be our guest. And we announced that a couple of weeks ago when you were asking questions about the Minister of Health. Well, he should be here this morning to answer your questions. 280-5848. What came to my mind was listening to the concern of the President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump, going to a hearing of the Supreme Court. According to the news report, this is the first sitting president to sit in on a Supreme Court proceedings. Apparently, this particular concern that he had with what is called the birthright citizenship, yeah. He wants to end birthright citizenship. What is that? According to their 14th Amendment, any person who is born in the United States, whether by a person who is visiting the United States or someone who is a permanent resident in the United States, and of course, if the person is a citizen of the United States, clearly the child is automatically an American citizen. Mr. Trump, and believe me, when you say Mr. Trump, actually, it's a whole large group of Americans for quite a number of years, I can remember it long before Trump, that disagreed with this idea. And their complaint is that there are many people who just come into the United States to have a child, and automatically that child becomes a citizen of the United States. And on the basis of that child's citizenship, they can begin to bring in a number of other relatives because they're a citizen and therefore allowed to bring in their closest relative on the basis of their citizenship. So they have complained about this for many years, looked at it as saying people are taking advantage of America. America is a wealthy country. You know, you have better medical facilities, better educational facilities, opportunities for economic development is stronger in the United States than any other part of the world. And so therefore people are trying always to just go into the United States just to have their children. And we know there are a number of Belizeans who wait till that pregnancy nearly the show, and then they go over there in the last 4 or 5 months, have the child, and then return to Belize. It's not that they want to live in the United States, but they want this opportunity to have a child. Sometimes it's for health reasons, because whatever complication that mother might be having could not be addressed in our own healthcare system. And so they go to the United States, have the child, and then return with the child to Belize. And then that child then is an American citizen, so can file for a passport at some time down the road. That then makes that child eligible to bring his or her mother or whoever else family into the United States on the basis that that child is a passport-carrying citizen of the United States. Well, as I said, Mr. Trump and several of many Americans, I can tell you, I could remember this concern being voiced long before there was a Trump. So there's a good amount of Americans who have said that, no, you are taking advantage of our country. You ought not to be doing that. We want to put a stop to that. But there was an old case, I believe the case is over 100 years old, of a Chinese immigrant, Mr. Wong, who originally was from China, but was an indentured slave, meaning that he was brought into the United States, just as our East Indian ancestors here in Belize were brought into this area from India by the British. When the British ran India, they brought the indentured, what it was called, indentured laborers into Belize, and that's the generation that we have of our East Indian citizens here. Well, many of the Chinese in the United States were also brought into the United States in that same way to work on their railroads and work in their agricultural sector, etc. And while they were not born in in the United States, the child or the children from them came up in the United States as citizens. But at that time, and I believe it was in 1829, that date might slip me, but it's an old case where the United States says, no, you're not a citizen and your child cannot be a citizen either. And they argued, their lawyer argued, that the child was born in the United States, and so therefore that case went all the way up to the United States Supreme Court, and then there was an amendment in the Constitution, and that amendment stated very clearly that persons born in the United States were citizens of the United States, regardless to whether their parent is a citizen. So, Mr. Trump went to the United Nations with his barrage of attorneys to challenge that. And of course, there were cases that were, in fact, against that. So the two sides presented to the Supreme Court, and the decision is forthcoming as to whether or not that amendment will be augmented or it remains the same. If it remains the same, that means that the current status of those who were born in the United States from parents who are not Americans will remain Americans regardless. If not, then I don't know how they're going to change it, but you will all of a sudden, being born in the United States, you will not automatically become a citizen. Now, I believe the way things like that usually happens, since it's over 100 years old, is that from henceforth, meaning that if you were born prior to the change, if it is changed, you remain a citizen. But if you are just coming into the United States with the idea that your child being born in the United States will be a U.S. citizen, if this amendment is changed, then from henceforth, the children born in the United States from a non-American will remain a non-American and will have to go through the filing process to try to become an American. So it's an interesting case. Forced me to look at our own immigration law in Belize, which is that if a child is born to a non-Belizean in Belize, that child is a Belizean. And it has not changed. It has not been challenged. And so as a result of that, you've had that large sector of persons who came into Belize during the 80s, and you know that process, I don't need to go into it, where many thousands of new Belizeans came into the country from Central America. And of course, each of their children that were born in Belize have become Belizean citizens. And that basis there was a way to change the status of the mother and father because the child is, in fact, a Belizean. And some Belizeans have complained about that likewise, saying that if you are born in Belize from non-Belizean citizens, then you as a Belizean have the right to bring in as many of your relatives as you will on the basis that you are a Belizean citizen and therefore have the right as a Banya Belizean citizen to be able to file for a person that is your relative that may not be a Belizean. So it's an interesting case. It may be interesting to you. I found it interesting because of our own situation here in Belize. Our number here is 2805848, and you're welcome to call in and to be a part of our conversation this morning. 2805848. What is on your mind? Again, a concern that has been voiced and is all over the place is this idea of motorcycle, and I want to make a comment that I've heard recently about motorcycles. Welcome, caller.
Morning, Nuri.
Yeah, morning.
Look at we have we don't have Americans that come down here, come down here too, man.
Well, I could imagine.
You know,
yeah.
I know one or two.
People
will come down here for America and will have children down here.
Yeah.
I believe.
What do you think that the benefit they find with it? I mean, we don't got no lot of things to offer. I mean, America has state of the art this and that. Why Belizeans want to have access, but what do we have?
Well, they can decide for tax free all kind of thing. They can decide I hang out. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, my brother. Good. That's yeah. You know, there are people who are trying to avoid paying American taxes. That's why we had this big upheaval over the last 5 or 10 years of Americans retrofitting our whole immigration process like theirs. And whether you believe it or not, all the records that we have of our immigration information, your social security, etc., they're in the American data process. Yes, welcome, caller.
Yeah, good morning, brother Nuri.
Yeah, morning, sir.
Praises to the Most High, the man will give you oxygen, the man will, give you the food and make the food grow to the ground. We always have to respect the man and give the man the praises.
Yes, sir. All right.
But I interview 5 nurses, and I asked the nurses, who could give me a little insight what happened if these Cuban doctors leave this country. And I may expect this lady to tell me that the healthcare system will collapse, but this lady will tell me the country will collapse. So my message to Johnny Briceño and Kevin Bernard, we need to grow some balls and tell the Americans we can't have mass genocide here because we have to please America policies. The nurses, they tell me we have a nationwide collapse. So when nurses tell me, come here, and they tell me, you know how much Cuban doctors man these clinics and these hospitals throughout the country? He said, believe all of them are specialists and believe not have the people, to man these things, these Cuban doctors go.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that the bigger picture. So I talk to Johnny Briceño, no, please grow some bars. Step down, brother. This country needs to move forward, but listen to me, we're compromised by the IMF and the World Bank and CARSI and all these international lending groups that come here and look on BSI.
Let me say this. Let me say this to you before you go on the matter of Kevin Bernard. He's our guest today, so maybe you should call in because we are opening the phone lines and give him a chance to respond. And make we hear exactly what he said about the Cubans. Right? It's a good point, though, brother. Very important. Yeah, I want to say quickly on the motorcycles that a brand new motorcycle will cost about 2005. I've seen it that low, brand new, okay? That means that used motorcycles is going from 2000 going down to the point where I understand that them boy they buy a motorcycle as low as $300, which is an old motorcycle, somebody just fixed it up so it could ride. So you could imagine the amount of them kind of motorcycles that we got on the road right now. $200 and $300 motorcycle. Meaning gone from this owner to that owner to that owner to that owner. And if you to sell it for $200, that's almost like you to get ready to dump it. Because I know everybody know, as simple as that engine is, not everybody know how to do it, especially when it comes to changing gears under speed. Now, you add that to the fact that we went through an exercise about training these people. I don't know the success of that. We need to hear from the ministry how success was that exercise. And now we go to what they call anecdote, where you say and you observe, not with necessarily any kind of statistic, but just where you observe. I am observing people on that road using motorcycles, a whole one at that. You could tell when they're souped up, brand new, very, very good shape. Some of them got some, better kept than cars. But that is not the majority of motorcycles on the road. The majority of motorcycle on the road is some nicely lookingly small thing where it look like you can just hold it together with some rubber band. And you have to be very careful because anything they can switch and do what they're supposed to do sometimes to get out. And I'm seeing continually persons on the road, and I want to say young people, persons on the road where they take some chance with them motorcycles. And it's only by the grace of God that we don't got more accidents with motorcycle, even though we get one lot. A lot of young people are dying with motorcycles. 17-year-old, 19-year-old. I hear the other day, somebody say, I don't even know how my son get the motorcycle. So that means, and it's a joy. Anybody who's ridden a motorcycle, particularly when that's your first ride, and you feel that breeze blowing, I'll cry your ears, oh man, that's a joyful feeling. But it could also turn into an evil Knievel kind of driving. If you Google what is evil Knievel, you'll find out that was a daredevil in America popular culture that was taking all kind of chances, flying around, jumping across cars and all kind of things. So whenever people see individuals on motorcycle with any kind of chance taken, flying in and out of traffic and going around on this side, and you go back in and you go on the way outside, and it's a stress for drivers. It's a stress for me as a driver. I don't know about you. Some people say, well, I just knock them down and then come in on my partner running you over. I don't got any kind of sentiment there. So I am very concerned as to where are we in trying to deal with the law-abiding, drive careful motorcyclists and the people where just, it's a thrill. And it's like some whole motorcycle, $200 and $300 compared to a $500, $5,000 motorcycle being kept in good shape. It's a concern that I have. I don't know about you and how you feel about it, but I know that the Ministry of Transport said that they recognize this is a major problem. It was a big talking point about back in January. We've kind of calmed down on it, but the behavior has not changed. And the way in which we have renegade riders out there, to me, don't seem to have changed. I'm not a traffic person, so I'm not there 24 hours to see what's going on. But as I said, anecdotally, just me observing in my circle, it appears that not much has changed when it comes to motorcycles. And we have got to be, when you add to it our issue with alcohol, our issue with people not being good drivers, like the last couple of days when it rain and people they take chance on the road. You know, it's just a great concern of mine. I don't know to what degree it may bother you as it bothers me, but I am very, very concerned. And I'm not blaming Ministry of Transport because I don't quite know how exactly you're going to police that. Is it that you're going to make sure that every single motorcycle stops and prove to you that they have gotten their training certificate, or you're going to stop and make sure that this motorcycle is up to par? Or what are you going to do? I do know that we have to do something because it is the responsibility of the authorities to step in when they feel like there is something there that is not working the way it ought to work, and here is our solution to fix that particular problem. And if the problem is motorcycles, training is a part of it. Let's see what is going on with the training. When the prices of training was up at $300, there was a whole controversy as to whether the $300 would be in the hands of the government as the trainer, or then the CEO said, no, this is going to go out to private. How is that going? Who is training? Who is certifying? Has the situation changed, or is it still a work in progress? We need to find out. We need to know, because motorcycles, as it is being driven on our highways and our streets, is an issue. Is an issue that really needs to be paid attention to. We'll stop at 28 minutes after 7 o'clock for our time check and our 2 cents cam with Brother Brick, and it's sponsored by Fort Point Security. Stay tuned. We'll come back with our guest after the break.
WUB, and this is XTV, guys. So we head into the month of Easter, that's where you have us, all right, and find out about Holy Thursday. You know what Holy Thursday really means. Let me find out the people in Tuesday. Christianity is that
Holy Thursday.
Yeah, what it means.
It's a particular day which is like a tradition because they connect it with Friday when Christ died.
What does it really means to you?
Well, it was the day before the crucifixion of Christ. You know, the last day that Jesus, as it were, spent with his disciples before he was taken to his trial. It's a day of reflection. It's a day for people to prepare, I would say, for the crucifixion.
Holy Thursday, it came around because of so many years of tradition, I would say, biblical teaching about Holy Thursday. However, and that night when Jesus finally decided was to, all right, I'm going through with this. And right. Jesus did it all for us. And that's what Holy Thursday, what we would call it today, means to me.
All right.
At Habet and Abet and Brothers Abet, we've always proudly celebrated Women's Month. This year, we celebrate women keeping the balance at home, at work, and in their communities. That's why all March long, all women receive 15% off store-wide, from paints to plumbing and everything in between. Plus, 20 to 65% off lots more deals on sale and clearance. With trusted experience, top quality products, and service that's second to none, we're here to support women every step of the way. Visit or call us today. Happy Women's Month from all of us at Habet and Abet and Brothers Abet, doing our part to balance the scales.
En Atlantic Bank, tu comodidad es nuestra prioridad. Nuestro centro de contacto está diseñado para mejorar tu experiencia bancaria. Con una amplia gama de opciones de servicio al cliente, ahorras tiempo y esfuerzo. Puedes llamar fácilmente para bloquear o desbloquear tus tarjetas de débito y crédito, realizar consultas de cuentas y acceder a información detallada de tus tarjetas. Ya sea que necesites asistencia con la banca en línea, apoyo para comercios o consultas generales, Nuestro equipo está listo para ayudarte. Para mayor comodidad, si todos los operadores están ocupados, puedes dejar tu número y un operador te devolverá la llamada lo antes posible para asegurarse de que recibas el apoyo que necesitas. Para mayor seguridad, es posible que necesitemos verificar tu identidad con un conjunto de preguntas sencillas. Recuerda, Atlantic Bank nunca solicitará tu nombre de tu usuario ni contraseña de Atlantic Online por llamada telefónica, mensaje de texto o correo electrónico, asegurando que tu información personal permanezca segura y protegida. Nuestro equipo de apoyo está disponible de lunes a viernes, de 8 a.m. a 6 p.m., en inglés y en español. Simplemente marca al 223-1212. Esta es la línea dedicada para nuestro centro de contacto. Atlantic Bank se compromete a brindarte un servicio excepcional y las herramientas que necesitas para administrar tus finanzas de manera conveniente y segura. Aprovecha al máximo nuestro servicio del centro de contacto.
Atlantic Bank, building the future together.
Smart for everybody. Smart leading everything. Smart give you everything. Smart offer everything. Smart give you everything. North to the east and the south and the west. Smart are the best. Darling, double up my data and give me all the text. In fact, give me a plan for my family. Unlimited calls, so me like it. And Smart make everybody feel happy. Bringing people together, me want it now. Smart got love for everybody. Me want my Smart plan. Want it right now. Me want my Smart plan. Want it right now. More bundles, data plan. Me want my smartphone, internet in my hand. Call me want my Smart plan. Want it right now. Smart. Stay connected. Stay happy.
Tired of appliances that just don't last? Appliances that just can't keep up? It's time for a change. GE Appliances delivers reliability, innovation, and performance you can trust. The decision is easy. Don't settle for less. Choose quality, choose reliability, choose GE.
I'm very happy knowing I have a new home. Me and my kids have where to live. I've been renting with me and my kids. Me and the two kids live alone, and it's not been easy for me moving from one house to our next house, trying to make the kids feel comfortable because rent is not cheap, so we have to be moving. Sometimes the landowners they don't like this, they don't like that, so we have to move out, and so it has not been easy for me and them. They have been very happy. They come with me on the Sundays and we try to clean a little bit, and the little one, she's excited, she wants to live in Bullet Tree. From the project started, Mom, when are we going to live in Bullet Tree? I tell her soon.
I always say this is one of the pivotal projects that this government is involved with, and I know the personal struggles of this particular family. I know what they've been through, and I know what this house represents to them. We're giving them a house, but for them it's an opportunity. For them it's a home where these girls can rest at night in peace. This house is going to open so many doors for them, and it changes lives, it transforms lives, and so I'm really happy to be a part of this, and I hope that for the rest of the time that I'm an area representative, we can continue to deliver homes to needy families like this one.
We are in an area that we had to improve the infrastructure, which is quite our experience. Infrastructure does play a big part in what we have to do. It improves the lives of many other people, not just our recipients.
Thanks to Heavenly Father that He gave us this opportunity, and to Honorable Misha Shabat, and to housing, and everybody who put a helping hand in this to make this house possible. I'm very grateful.
Oh gosh, I'm say, me fretting up about the year of flexing. I'm say, me frowning up on me here it wearing. Whoa.
Electricity is essential for everyday life, but behind every outlet, a lot is happening to bring you safe, reliable, and sustainable energy. Let's start at the beginning. Independent power producers across Belize generate electricity using a mix of renewable and non-renewable resources. Electricity travels across a network of high voltage transmission lines capable of transmitting electricity across long distances. Electricity then reaches your nearest substation, where it is adjusted to a lower voltage, making it safe to travel on the distribution lines you see in your community. From there, electricity makes its final journey from the distribution lines to your home, providing you with safe and reliable power when you need it. We continue to serve you.
Get your body sculpted with gym equipment and accessories from Benny's. Quality and savings.
Attention advertisers, sellers and readers of the Amandala newspaper, please be advised that there will be no online Tuesday issue of the newspaper on Tuesday, March 31st, 2026 and Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. There will only be the Friday issue, which will hit the streets on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026 and Friday, April 10th, 2026. Happy Easter from the management and staff of the Amandala newspaper.
This is WUB Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. It's a Thursday morning, the second day of April 2026. Mr. Kevin Bernard is one of the most visible and politically active minister in the Ministerial administration. He's now carrying one of the most sensitive and, in fact, unforgiving ministries. His portfolio is that of health. He is present and a very practical and very down-to-earth minister. You can always see him out there with his constituents. And so he has very strong visibility, which can turn into real good political points. But he has a very challenging ministry, which has been challenging even before he became the minister. He joins us this morning, and we want to go through a number of these concerns that you have been calling about, and we will give him an opportunity. Let us give at least the first half hour to 45 minutes with an undisturbed conversation, and in the last part of the program, we'll open the phone lines, and he's been willing to accept questions. Are we hooked up with the minister yet? All right. Welcome. Welcome,
Good
brother.
morning.
Yeah. We appreciate your presence.
It's always a pleasure, Brother Nuri.
I want to say that this was in the making like 2 months ago. You've been traveling back and forth, but you promised that once you settle down, you would accept our invitation, and I appreciate that very, very much. Let's begin with a simple question. Do you believe that the Belize health care system is in a stronger, fairer, and more accessible than when you took over that position?
Brother Nuri, I can confidently say so. I think that there has been a lot of great improvements and achievements by the ministry. And I will go back to my predecessor as well. Started with him, I know Minister Shabat, when he was there, he had the bulk of the COVID. Well, I took on in the middle of COVID as well, but I know that it was a much more difficult task for him, as the fact that the country was in shutdown at that time. But going into the ministry in 2022, Nuri, as I have said from the very beginning, my goal and my vision is to ensure that whatever position the Prime Minister placed me in is for us to ensure that we leave it better than we found it. And I believe that with the team that I have around me, we have been able to make great strides. We have had some great achievements, but I'm not talking just about local achievements. I think that we have to also understand that Belize has been highlighted in many aspects. When you see I'm out there representing the country on behalf of the ministry and on behalf of the government, Belize for many areas have been highlighted in terms of health improvements. We have been heralded in terms of our digital Belize health information system, one that we now to advance into a more digital ecosystem. But definitely we have achieved quite a significant amount that I think we're not where we want to be, of course, but we are in the direction. I mean, our Belize health strategic plan that we have launched gives us the roadmap for us to be able to say, okay, these are the targets we need to set out. We have to plan for future shocks. We have to plan for future pandemics. We have to be prepared. And so that involves training, that involves capacity building in terms of, it also involves improvement in infrastructure, the rollout of better equipments, medical equipments across the country, improved services. And with the rollout of NHI as a primary care service, I think we have been able to make a complete difference and a complete turnaround, Nuri, from since I got there.
All right. Well, that's a good overall kind of synopsis of your achievements since you've gotten there. Things have changed since Mr. Shabbat was there. But let's get current, because we had a caller called last week about this, and we had one call this morning again about this. If Belize is to follow the American line and send Cuban doctors home, as is their request, what will be the impact on our healthcare system, Minister, especially in rural areas of Belize? Diplomacy aside, doctor for doctor, district for district, can Belize replace those doctors? Yes or no?
It'll be a difficult thing, Nuri, and I will be frank with the Belizean people here, is that if we were to have, we were to have gone that route, which we don't know the full final decision of this yet. We are still in diplomatic discussions, and I can't detail some of those discussions, but it will have a major impact. As you know, currently, what the ministry had been doing, however, let me give you a little bit of backdrop before I answer that question directly, in terms of what the ministry has been doing over the past 2 years. And I highlighted some of these things in the budget presentation, that in order to be able to prepare and to ensure that we have the necessary specialty care here in Belize, we have been able to send many of our people to train. But as you know, when these people go to train, you're talking about 4 or 5 years before they return with that desired specialty that they come back with. Currently, we have persons who are granted paid study leave, for example, that are out. I know we have 17 medical officers who had the privilege to go abroad to specialize and master in their field of employment, and that included general surgery. We were talking about radiologists, anesthesiologists, obstetrics and gynecology. We have nephrologists. We just have our pediatric oncologist who came back to Belize, a young doctor by Dr. Kawich, who I know we are working on getting her, while she's a pediatrician assigned to San Ignacio Community Hospital. The need for her service and her specialty is at the KHMH, where young children who are now suffering from cancer can have that level of care here in country. And we are looking at medical physics. So I'm talking about in terms
I
of
just
forward
want to, just for clarification, what percentage of those medical officers are in fact studying in Cuba?
So these are not, there might be about 3 of them in Cuba, the most. All the others are currently in Guyana, Guatemala, Jamaica, and in Taiwan. For some of these few countries, and I know we have some others maybe in the Mexican side doing some studies. So
the reason I'm asking you this, Minister, is because
we have a few.
We know from looking at your website that a number of these Cuban personnel are in deep inside rural areas, villages that I understand some of our local doctors don't want to go. And so we have been utilizing this service. Can you tell us how many of these areas, these out-district areas, these rural areas, will be affected if we are to follow the Americans' requests to send these Cuban personnel home? I think people would like to get an idea of what is on the ground rather than what we're training to address the situation.
Yes, I just wanted to give that we've been planning, but when you look at the current numbers that we have approximately about 95 members of the Cuban Brigade in country. Out of those, we have 45 of them are actual doctors who are specialized in various aspects. But to answer your question directly, Brother Nuri, where the impact will be felt, of course, would be in our in the rural communities indeed. And so what we had to do, when you look at Punta Gorda, for example, out of the 16 doctors that service that area, the entire Toledo area, at the Punta Gorda Hospital and surrounding facilities, 50% of those are actual Cuban doctors. So we would have a huge impact in the South when it comes to that aspect. As well, the rural nurses that are out there assigned in the rural communities, most of them are in the South. I think in Orange Walk, in the northern corridor, there's a lesser amount, about 7 in total. And then at KHMH as well. KHMH has a couple Cubans assigned to there, especially in the specialized fields. And so we have to ensure that we are preparing ourselves that if that comes to that. And we are hoping that, of course, that the best outcome would come out of this after deep negotiations, discussions with both Cuba and the U.S. government. As you know,
Minister,
we have to have these discussions.
I realize that this is not your portfolio as much as it is the Minister of Foreign Affairs and, of course, the Prime Minister.
Right.
But you're the frontline minister when it comes to the Cuban medical people. And you, more than any other of your colleagues in the cabinet, realize the impact on our health system, which is already a very tenuous, troubled area of our governance, that we would be in very serious problems if we were to follow the instructions, because it is in an instruction basically, that we get rid of these persons who have had such a beneficial input into the good health of Belizeans over the last 25, 30 years. As a minister, as a person, individual, what really is your thinking about this whole pressure coming from the Americans? I don't want you to talk diplomatic to me now. I want you to talk about the practical observation that you're doing as the Minister of Health.
Well, one of the things, Brother Nuri, is that it's worrisome. It's worrisome. It has caused some sleepless nights indeed. I know that my team at the ministry, we have been listening and taking looking at all what is happening around us in terms of some of our friendly countries that had to make these tough decisions, while in some part of the other countries like Jamaica, their negotiations were that they tried to make some amends to the specific agreements that they had. While in Belize, we have a totally different agreement with the Cuban government, or an agreement that no longer exists because that was it ended in 2025, and we did not sign any new agreement as countries. But the brigade is still here. They're still providing that very, very essential services to our Belizean people. And it is worrisome indeed that if we were to lose that 95 cadre of staff in one sweep, it will put some serious pressures on the health system here in Belize. One that I'm pretty sure we will have difficulty to fill that gap.
Yes. So Minister, if that is the case,
and I say all of this, yes, I was going to say that you also alluded to the fact that we have a lot of local doctors or persons who, at times, it's difficult to get them to go and accept employment in the South or these far communities. And so we at the ministry as well are looking at mechanisms. I just had a meeting with my CEO and our Chief Nursing Officer, Nurse Bell, at the ministry briefly on Monday, as we start to look at planning in those areas, what aspects, what can we do to offer maybe a separate incentive package for persons who are employed both in the San Pedro area and in the deep South, because that's where the challenges are. I know that the Ministry of Public Service had made some slight adjustment in terms of the housing allowance, and so that is granted to these persons, but it's still a bit difficult. So I think that we have to look at further mechanisms that we are able to retain these persons in those areas. I want to thank, of course, all our persons who are there working, providing that service, because without their interest, their commitment, their dedication, we would have had some serious challenges. Now, bear in mind that while all of this is happening, Nuri, we are also looking at the expansion of hospital services in the Punta Gorda area, as we are undergoing a feasibility study with design that will see the construction of a new secondary care hospital in Punta Gorda. So that means what? That means that the services, the level of specialty services will increase. They no longer will have to go all the way to southern region to get certain services, unless it's a referral case. But so that will require us to as well plan, and that's what we have been doing in terms of forward thinking, making sure that we can fill those necessary skill set, so that by the time we commission those hospitals there in Punta Gorda, in the new San Pedro Hospital, in the proposed tertiary care facility in Belmopan, and in the new Northern Regional Hospital, we
all right.
have looked at that.
I think I understand. I think I understand that in your futuristic planning and respect to that, but I think you're facing a present problem now, that there is a demand on our government that, based on an American policy, not our own, that we must get rid of these individuals who have been doing an excellent, critical, life-saving service to us. And we are being told that for us to obey the American order, and it is like an order, that we have to put our own self in danger. Because in fact, you are saying that these personnel, these medical personnel, are so critical to our health, particularly in the rural areas, that we are being asked to put ourselves in danger, in putting our whole health care system in danger, in order to follow the diplomatic order or suggestion coming from the United States. Isn't there something legal there, Minister? Isn't there something that we could talk to an international body and say, you can't force us to shoot our own self in the leg?
I'm not in that realm of in those diplomatic discussions, Nuri, but to all fairness, I will say that we have had some, I know from that level that there have been some great talks with both governments, and I, as I said, I'm hoping that we could come out of this with a more positive than having to lose the brigade. While like as I said, I may not be able to respond to what decisions will happen at this time, because we have not been able to get that direct information. But at the end of the day, I know that there has been constant discussions, and I will be fair with the U.S. government. They understand that we cannot, and if we were to make that decision, we cannot simply walk away from the 95 health professionals that are here. We cannot just lose them in one sweep. It's going to be difficult, and I know they understand this. As I said, I'm hoping, I'm always an optimistic person, and I'm hoping that we are able to get out of this one with less challenges. And of course, I really want to express our appreciation to our Cuban friends who have been here. But at this, as you all know, when initially the Cuban Brigade started many years ago, it was never for a full-time program. It was simply a short-term program, but it ended up, just like in all other countries, becoming something where health systems have become dependent.
Absolutely.
And we have to ensure that we start to look at proper planning, and that's what we've been doing over the past 2 years, as I said.
All right.
So
last question in that area.
That's all I could respond to that question.
Yeah, last question. Are we going to also have to stop sending our students to Cuba for medical training if we accede to this request of the United States?
That was never part of that discussion. Let me also say though that because of the challenges that we've seen in the Cuban country, we have not been doing so for the past 2 years. The ministry took that position in not sending anybody on scholarships in Cuba for many reasons, and I would not want to discuss those reasons over the air. But there's challenges in the country, constant loss of electricity, how that erodes the training capacity for doctors or persons who are out there training. And I know that if for those who are there, they can remain there to finish their course of study. And as an individual, I don't think you can force anybody not to go to a specific country on their own choice. But as a ministry, we at the time we have felt that it was not necessary. It was not in the right condition for us to be able to send people out there at this time. And so that's the reason why you have not seen where there have been Cuban scholarship offered or opportunities being offered for persons to go to Cuba to study at this point for the past 2 years, due to the conditions and situation that are affecting Cuba at this time.
All right, Minister, we'll take our first break and we'll be right back. Our Minister, Kevin Bernard, Minister of Health and Wellness, is our guest this morning. We'll be right back.
Your time is valuable. That's why SARA is coming. A modern revenue authority built to make managing your taxes simpler, faster, and more convenient than ever before. With SARA, you can expect improved services, from quicker responses to queries to faster processing of your tax refunds. No long waits. Filing or paying your taxes? With SARA, you'll be able to do it securely online at any time, from anywhere, thanks to us placing a greater focus on digital convenience and secure digital records. The SARA will also commit to consistent and fair application of tax laws via a risk-based audit and compliance strategy and increased data-driven reforms. With SARA, most of your tax business will be handled online, saving you time to focus on what matters most: your business, your family, your life. And if you need in-person help, SARA will still have staff ready to assist you at all satellite offices countrywide. SARA, tax services made simpler, faster, and more convenient for you.
Hola, soy el Dr. Rosado, pediatra. Hoy quiero hablar con los padres sobre rotavirus y cómo podemos proteger a nuestros hijos. El rotavirus es un virus que causa diarrea severa y vómitos, especialmente en niños pequeños. Esto puede provocar deshidratación grave y requerir hasta hospitalización si no se trata a tiempo. La buena noticia es que diarrea por rotavirus se puede prevenir con vacunas. La vacuna es segura, efectiva y ahora está disponible en su centro de salud más cercana. Se administra en gotas por vía oral a los 2, 4 y 6 meses de edad. Proteja a su hijo contra la diarrea severa. Visite su clínica más cercana.
Development is not something that can be achieved only by the government or only by the community. It is always a partnership. It's always a partnership. Government, our development partners, the community, Belizeans, all working together, united for one common purpose. And what is that one common purpose? To build a good country, a better country, where all Belizeans will have an equal opportunity.
Today's handover is more than an infrastructure project. It is a demonstration of our promise, a commitment to the well-being of your children, and to the future of your community.
One of the things that we have been supporting at the national level is something called the Multidimensional Poverty Index. What that shows is that we look at poverty and deprivation not only as a matter of lack of income, but if you don't have access to housing, safe housing, or access to education, or access to water, is also some of those things that are measured, so you get a more complete picture of what needs to be addressed.
It's not fair that children, because they live in rural Toledo, don't have the opportunity to see those things, touch those things, use those things, simply because you live in a small village way to the back. That is not the kind of society we want in Belize. We want one where every child has the same opportunity. Every child drinks the same clean water. Every child has the same opportunity to education, same access to computer technology and everything that comes along with that. And that's what we want.
Nando's Wholesale is your market leader in Belize's wholesale industry when it comes to high-quality products at the most reasonable and competitive prices. With over 40 years in the wholesale business, Nando's Wholesale embraces the partnership of the hotel industry in Belize by providing world-renowned brands in wines, seasonings, condiments, and cleaners in industrial sizes, as well as small and large kitchen appliances and equipment. Nando's also takes pride in providing one of the quietest and most durable air conditioning systems in Belize with technical support and spare parts. Nando's Wholesale. Professional, reliable, effective, and prompt. Nando's Wholesale always delivers. Visit us at www.nandos.bz or send an email to nandos@nandos.bz. Or, even better yet, give us a call today at 222-500 or 280-8080 to speak to one of our sales representatives today.
Oh gosh, I'm say, the fretting up of the hair are flexing. I'm say, the frowning up on me hair it wearing. Whoa.
Attention advertisers, sellers and readers of the Amandala newspaper, please be advised that there will be no online Tuesday issue of the newspaper on Tuesday, March 31st, 2026 and Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. There will only be the Friday issue, which will hit the streets on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026 and Friday, April 10th, 2026. Happy Easter from the management and staff of the Amandala newspaper.
back. Our guest this morning is Mr. Kevin Bernard. He is the Minister of Health and Wellness. And Minister, we've dealt with a critical area, but before we go on to talking about your plans with the expansion of health services with new clinics and hospitals being open, I'd like to go back to another area that I think when you listen to people is another one of their major concerns, and that is your pharmaceuticals. People are saying that I've seen the doctor, I was told that this is what I have and this is what I need, but I can't access the medication from the medical health facilities. Why is this still happening?
I'm not sure the question is regarding
access to the pharmaceuticals.
To shortage in pharmaceuticals, or
access to because people are saying we are seeing doctors. I have been told what is my problem, but when I go to the pharmacy, I cannot get the medication. I must go to the private in order to access that particular medication.
I would say, Nuri, that I find that a bit. I'm not too sure if that is accurate, because I know for a fact that while there were some delays in the tender cycle last year, which delayed some of the processes, that we have been getting our medication, our supplies, our pharmaceuticals right now to time. And I'm part of a chat group that whenever supplies are in country, all pharmacies across the public health system are informed. Now, if it is a specialized medication that is not part of the formulary in government, then that may be in rare instances that persons will have to seek those medication outside of the government system. However, I am pretty sure, Nuri, that at this point in time, all our basic medications that are on our formulary are available across this country. As I said, I am kept updated on a daily basis in terms of issues like these. I know that we had some minor issues in the earlier part of the year due to some delays, but at this point in time, at this juncture, we know that our suppliers who had one tender items have been delivering on a very timely manner. In fact, just yesterday I spoke with our manager at the Central Medical Stores, who highlighted to me, for example, they call Hishna Memorial Hospital, were trying to procure a specific item outside in private service. However, the ministry has, and so it was about just the pharmacists at that establishment being able to communicate with our Central Medical Store. One of the things we have seen, however, Nuri, and I will say this, I think that communication has been a big issue, and I've stressed this with our Director of Hospital Services when I visited the North, for example, recently. There has to be proper communication in terms of where the pharmacy unit and the Central Medical Stores have constant dialogue in terms of what is available, and when the items are delivered to these units, they too in turn have to communicate to their head of their what you call the nursing administrator, who will know, you know what, okay, we have these medication in stock, so if you need to prescribe any medication, we have these available. You're not to send persons to go outside of the facility to purchase these items. I see. There will always be challenges, Nuri, when it comes to supplies and distribution.
We're not blind.
However,
we're not blind to that.
We have been doing our utmost best to improve that.
Yeah. Well, we know that a few years ago, your ministry was charged, really, with doing a lot of underneath kind of, not directly on you, sir, but that especially in the procurement of pharmaceuticals, that you had a lot of extra people who were bringing, in other words, corruption was very involved in the procurement of medication. Has that been corrected? I know, as I said, I'm talking about maybe 2 years ago when it was really large in the news. I have not heard it at that large a level, but has that problem been resolved?
That has been totally under control. We have a fair tender cycle process that we put into place, Brother Nuri. It's an open tender system where suppliers has to submit their bids. In fact, the committee that I put together involves members from the Ministry of Finance, our technical people within the Ministry of Health, and other personnel that ensure that we are following government processes. And in fact, as you know, these processes have to go through a series of check and balances, because apart from the tender committee meeting, going through and reviewing, it goes back to the Ministry of Finance, who does a second review. And from after that, then it goes to the Contractor General, who does a far more in-depth review. Now, that process sometimes is the process that sometimes gets me frustrated, because sometimes it takes too long by the time it gets from the Contractor General back to the Ministry to sign the contract. You're talking about 3-4 months, but 3-4 months is long of a time.
I understand you.
Yeah. So we are trying to see how we could get that process narrowed, but at the same time, while not losing sight of the fact that we have to do things the right way. And I can safely say that at the Ministry of Health and Wellness, we have been ensuring that we follow the rules, we follow the law, and that we have been transparent and open when it comes to that process.
Now, I personally witnessed this a couple of times, as a matter of fact, since this new arrangement has been made, and I understand it is a law, that one who is acquiring a medication must bring a doctor's prescription in the case of some medication. Certainly it's not for an aspirin, but for other medications, antibiotics, that people were used to simply going and asking the pharmacist at the drugstore, and he or she would pass that to you. Now I understand this new rule, and like I said, I observed some people really having problems with the pharmacy, trying to say, but I did get this like for years, why I have to go through this now? Can you justify this new process, sir?
Well, it's not a new process, Brother Nuri. It's something that exists in the laws of Belize quite some time. Okay. And in fact, it is a discussion that the Pharmacy Association has been having with the Ministry of Health and Wellness in terms of the safe and effective sale of medications across this country. I mean, let's be frank, and we have to. And I've said this to my constituents who have come to me with the same situation. We can go over to the U.S. For us who travel, or to Mexico. You cannot walk into a pharmacy and ask them for an antibiotic or a drug that is prescribed drug with an old prescription. They will turn you back. They will tell you that is not valid. And for the purpose of these things is about the management, and management of these medications. And for example, Nuri, if you are an asthmatic person and you're used to a specific medication, yes, between you and your doctor may say to you, yeah, you could continue to use the medication, but it's the onus of the doctor then to write you a new prescription, because unless his prescription clearly states, I'm providing you a supply for X amount of months on this medication, then you are then eligible to use that prescription. But, doctor, but if your prescription,
but the doctor will tell me this is a new consultancy fee of $50 to $70, when all I'm trying to get from him or her is a renewal of a prescription that I've been dealing with for years. So I have to keep going back and paying the doctor a private. Well, you could say I could go to the KHMH or one of the other public health facilities.
Yes.
But,
yes.
You see, I'm not trying to say that this new is not good, because clearly it is better that we know we're getting a safe process of dispensing these drugs. But I'm just saying,
that's right.
Changing lane after we've allowed it to get the cow gone out of the fence long time, now we try to get the cow back in the fence, it is a difficulty.
One of the things, though, that I have said to both Dr. Musa and in her speaking with them, and I know they had a meeting yesterday with the Farm Association, because there have been some confusion. There have been where in some private pharmacy, they have been saying, we have told not to provide anything unless you bring a prescription. But if there were persons who had been on some prescribed drugs, the pharmacy has that leverage to be able to issue that and document. So there was a matter of communication between the pharmacists, and they're trying to fix that in terms of that situation. Again, I must repeat the fact that it's all about the proper of medication across this country, while not denying access to the needy of our society, because at the end of the day, while we have taken these steps to categorize the sale of medication, and I understand we have placed them into three categories. One of them is the general over-the-counter sale, which you could go and buy. I've seen a post from a good friend of mine who said, "Oh, you can't get Tylenol over the counter." That's not true. You can get ibuprofen, 200 milligram, right over the counter. Those are over the counter drugs. You can get your Tylenol, the usual cough medicine, and so forth. It is only items that are prescription drugs only that you have to really get a prescription for. And I understand what you're saying in terms of persons who would say, but I have to go back to a doctor. Again, our public health facilities are available to prescribe those medications for you once you have been, because everything, for the most part, a patient history may be in our BHIS already. And our government facilities are open, our NHI facilities are open. So I encourage those who have NHI or subscribe to NHI, visit your NHI facility or go to the public facilities, whether it's in Belize City, KHMH, Cleopatra, Mitchell Roberts, any of those facilities that are nearest to you. And you can get your prescription done by one of our medical officers or doctors that can see you there.
All right, good.
There will be minor issues. I believe that you could say person will have to go to the private sector and pay for that consult.
Yeah.
But by right, a doctor should be seeing you if you have a heart condition, if you have a serious chronic illness, you should be seen at least every 3 months to make sure that specific drug that they are putting you on is effectively working for you. And so that is the rationale behind all of these things.
Yes, sir. And I'm not questioning. I know that in other jurisdictions it's a much more strict regime than we have here. I have seen people tell their neighbor, "Boy, take this tetracycline because I may take it, and in 2 days my whatever gone, and so go ahead and take this." And if he work, that man for years they take that tetracycline thinking that he worked for me, and then he tell our next man, and then they go in a drugstore and say, "I need a tetracycline," and they get it without prescription.
Prescribed.
So I know it has been abused, and it's not a good thing. I understand. But what about the medication for mental health? We had a person call a few weeks ago, and I told her that you're going to be on and she could call and ask this question. The person was concerned after seeing the incident of the punching out of the child in Belmopan and then the assault on the 2 women here in Belize City. And that was attributed to a person with mental issues. And then we're hearing that the disbursement or the dispersing of medical or mental health medication is not easily available, and that we are, and I'm trying to push everything into what I've heard, that in fact we are dispensing a lower level of medication for mental health than a higher level, and that it's all about money. Can you share that, please?
From what I understand, Nuri, is that while there may have been some challenge in the importation of risperidone, that's one of the drugs used for mental health patients. Again, depending on what the doctors prescribe, I think there's a series of certain medications that are used for mental health patients. I can confirm to you, however, though, that we have a well supply available, which has been provided to our mental health facilities and across the ministry that are made available to persons with these. And I know we work closely with the Ministry of Human Development as well to ensure that these persons who require these necessary medication are getting their medication. And from speaking to Dr. Musa, I know the Ministry of Health as well do their rounds and their visits, especially when it comes to some of these rough sleepers, and trying to make sure that they get the necessary help they need.
What do you mean by rough sleepers? That's a term I'm not familiar with.
But it's just a term on the street sides or so. Not necessarily all of them are mental patients. Sometimes it's other conditions that have them living in those conditions. And so now we confuse those persons that are homeless and as we call it, rough sleepers, that are just sleeping on the street sides in any part of the where they get to sleep. Not all of them are necessarily mental patients. Sometimes it's addiction to other things that have caused them.
What in your ministry deals with the entire regime of mental health? I mean, going way back, we could remember Seaview, then we could remember Rockview, then I understand we got a Palm View now.
We have Palm View.
But what is the regime? I mean, we see people on the street, then we hear people on different levels of mental disorder.
I think an additional 30 beds for those who really need to be institutionalized.
Yeah.
One of the things that from a medical standpoint, from the people in the field are saying that you not necessarily have to be institutionalized once you have family care, but all you need is to ensure that you are on your proper medication. However, there are those who don't have that family support and they need to be placed at the institutions. And so reason for us looking at the expansion of that facility. Well, as I said, we know that as well through the Ministry of Human Development, I understand there's a facility in Belize City, I'm trying to remember the name, that also house some of these patients. And of course, to access the services, what we have also done, Nuri, is to ensure that mental health service becomes embedded in primary care service. And so that becomes part of all our facilities, as opposed to just have a mental health unit. It's trying not to segregate. It's now part of a broader primary care service, so that persons who have challenges in terms of mental health are able to seek those services at any of our primary care facilities, whether be it at NHI facility, whether be it at a government polyclinic, or at the regional facilities or community hospitals across Belize.
Okay, Minister, we'll stop here. When we come back, we'll open the phone lines so that anyone who wants to ask you a question directly can do that. We do have several other more questions, and we will try to finish up by 9 o'clock. Thank you very much for being with us for the entire show. All right, we'll take the next break.
I'm very happy knowing I have a new home. Me and my kids have where to live. I've been renting with me and my kids. Me and the two kids live alone, and it's not been easy for me moving from one house to our next house, trying to make the kids feel comfortable because rent is not cheap. So we have to be moving. Sometimes the landowners they don't like this, they don't like that, so we have to move out, and so it has not been easy for me and them. They have been very happy. They come with me on the Sundays and we try to, clean a little bit. And the little one, she's excited. She wants to live in Bullet Tree. From the project started, Mom, when are we going to live in Bullet Tree? I tell her, soon.
I always say this is one of the pivotal projects that this government is involved with. And I know the personal struggles of this particular family. I know what they've been through, and I know what this house represents to them. We're giving them a house, but for them it's an opportunity. For them it's a home where these girls can rest at night in peace, This house is going to open so many doors for them, and it changes lives, it transforms lives, And so I'm really happy to be a part of this, and I hope that for the rest of the time that I'm an area representative, we can continue to deliver homes to needy families like this one.
We are in an area that we had to improve the infrastructure, which is quite our experience. Infrastructure does play a big part in what we have to do. It improves the lives of many other people, not just our recipients.
Thanks to Heavenly Father that He gave us this opportunity, and to Honorable Misha Shabbat, and to housing, and everybody who put a helping hand in this to make this house possible. I'm very grateful.
At Atlantic Bank, your convenience is our priority. Our contact center is designed to enhance your banking experience. With a wide range of customer service options, you save time and effort. You can easily call in to block or unblock your debit and credit cards, perform account inquiries, and access detailed card information. Whether you need assistance with online banking, merchant support, or general inquiries, our team is ready to help. For added convenience, if all operators are busy, you can leave your number and an operator will return your call as soon as possible to ensure you receive the support you need. Depending on your transaction type, we may need to verify your identity through a set of security questions. And remember, Atlantic Bank will never request your username or password for Atlantic Online via phone call, text, or email, ensuring your personal information remains safe and secure. Our support team is available Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. in both English and Spanish. Simply dial 223-1212. This is a dedicated line for our contact center. Atlantic Bank is committed to providing you with exceptional service and the tools you need to manage your finances conveniently and securely. Take full advantage of our easy-to-use contact center services today.
Atlantic Bank, building the future together.
Nando's Wholesale is your market leader in Belize's wholesale industry when it comes to high-quality products at the most reasonable and competitive prices. With over 40 years in the wholesale business, Nando's Wholesale embraces the partnership of the hotel industry in Belize by providing world-renowned brands in wines, seasonings, condiments, and cleaners in industrial sizes, as well as small and large kitchen appliances and equipment. Nando's also takes pride in providing one of the quietest and most durable air conditioning systems in Belize with technical support and spare parts. Nando's Wholesale. Professional, reliable, effective, and prompt. Nando's Wholesale always delivers. Visit us at www.nandos.bz or send an email to nandos@nandos.bz. Or, even better yet, give us a call today at 222-500 or 280-8080 to speak to one of our sales representatives today.
Oh gosh, I'm say, the fretting up of the hair are flexing. I'm say, the frowning up on me hair is wearing. Whoa.
lost the train.
Me too.
Whether you are a busy person or stuck in traffic or having an adverse or very demanding circumstance, tension builds up, causing you to be stressed out. Stress attacks everyone, anytime, any age. And stress is a killer. Palm City? It's best to be alive than dead. So visit Freetown Drugstore to get options to relieve stress and to relax your mind.
Yes, sir. What can I do for you today?
I'm so stressed out.
Okay, I'm saying I help you right now. When I this daily? For 10 days, I am good after that, okay?
Okay.
Freetown Drugstore, 28 Freetown Road, where you are better off alive than dead. Freetown Drugstore, telephone 223-2876.
Attention advertisers, sellers and readers of the Amandala newspaper, please be advised that there will be no online Tuesday issue of the newspaper on Tuesday, March 31st, 2026 and Tuesday, April 7th, 2026. There will only be the Friday issue, which will hit the streets on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026 and Friday, April 10th, 2026. Happy Easter from the management and staff of the Amandala newspaper.
Our numbers here is 280-5848, and we have our Minister of Health and Wellness, the Honorable Kevin Bernard, 280-5848. Let me jump into another area that's very concerning, Minister Bernard. You know, we've always been told that we as taxpayers, we provide scholarship opportunities for people to go and study law, to go and study engineering, to go and study medicine particularly. And they are bonded. My understanding is this bond means that your all expense paid scholarship demands that when you come back, you put in some work for the government, meaning for the people who paid for you to go and study. We see that many of these attorneys, they come back and they don't spend any time in pro bono. They don't spend any time with what they call the I forget the name of the where you provided free legal service, legal aid, I think it was called one time.
Legal aid.
But you know, it is the doctors that I'm concerned about, Minister, and that is that we send these people out. When they come back, they give minimum time to the government, hospitals, etc., and then they're right into their private practice. Many of them will tell you, I can only take you so far with the public, and the rest you have to go to the services outside. Let me continue the question after we get this call. Yes, welcome, caller. Welcome.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Nuri.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
I want to say good morning to Mr. Bernard.
Morning.
In Belize, sometimes we have to make great decisions to please our people sometimes. And the Minister of Health and the Prime Minister, I think if you cannot convince or talk sense into the U.S. government about the Cuban brigade, it is best that we put somebody in these posts that can have the Belizean people at heart. I know these men come and put papers in front of you guys and demand that you do what they say. But every 5 years we have elections and we vote for you to do the best and do whatever you can in the interest of the Belizean people. When it comes, this morning I talked to 5 nurses, 5 of them, and I could interview more. And you know what they tell me, bro? The country will collapse. So if the country will collapse, who did we elect? Why did we elect men that have ears for international people and not for the cry of the people who work directly in the hospital? These nurses told me this morning, and I know this is not fiction, and I interviewed them this morning and they explained to me, I was so stunned, and because I may expect they said the healthcare system is going down, but they tell me the whole country going down. So I don't know if Mr. Briceño care. I don't know. I know you care. I can hear it in your heart. I know you're a human being, but you two guys will have to make a decision of a lifetime to kill a nation or to build a nation, brother. And this is where the revolution speak. We don't know the revolution real. We don't know we there. We there behind the scene. We don't control the funds of this country. We don't control nothing, but we don't control everything. But guys, we need to make the right decision, and we need to grow balls, and we need to man up. This is the only time we need to man up in this country, because if we have people in the waiting room, whole of 24 hours out again no service, when these people leave, how many days will Belizean be in those emergency waiting rooms? So at the end of the day, bro, we don't have to tell America, or we don't have to give back where America try donate to us. Just give them back, because we can kill one population of people to please Mr. Donald Trump.
All right, we are making answer the question, caller. Thank you for the question. You want to respond to that?
Let me first of all say to the caller, I hear him, passionate Belizean, and just like us, we go into this business and this service out of love. As I said in my cabinet, my budget speech, is a labor of love. And of course, while we confront these
just a minute, caller.
These challenges that may be in front of us. Let me say though that I will repeat that as a ministry, we have been forward thinking, we have been planning. In fact, last year I took to cabinet a paper which was approved for a 10-year training plan, where we are going to invest in our healthcare professionals. We are going to invest in more nursing. We are going to invest in more doctors being specialized, as I have highlighted a few of them just a while ago. And that's proper planning. Because as I've said, the Cuban Brigade was never something of a lifetime. And at some point, all governments, whether it is in Belize or any other government who had the Cuban Brigade, was to just build capacity, to fill gaps. But we as a country have to also fill our own gaps. We have to also ensure that we have the trained doctors. And that ties into your initial question about the bonding of doctors. And so to date, just to give a clear understanding of that, the bond actually bonds you to work in Belize, and not in the public health system. However,
let me hold my question because we have another caller. I'll go to the call and then we can go back to my question. Go ahead, caller. Welcome.
Good morning, Nuri. Good morning, Mr. Minister. This is Sandra Coy on two matters.
Good morning, Ms. Coy.
First of all, Mr. Minister, in this problem with the Cuban employment, has a solid, structured case been presented to the U.S. on why they are utterly unfair, utterly unjust, and utterly illegal and illegitimate? First of all, what has been the brain drain, Mr. Minister, you would say, of medical personnel, doctors, nurses, whatever, from this country to the first world, to the UK and Canada and what to name the US? I don't think they go to Germany and France and so. What would you say has been the brain drain?
Well, if you want me to answer that question while you're on the line, Ms. Koye, I can tell you that for the past a couple of years, and this has been happening for quite some time, but we have been seeing a bit of reduction, and I'll tell you why. In terms of the brain drain, where these big countries have been poaching or trained nurses, for example.
Are you hearing him any at all?
No, none at all.
No. She's
I'm
not.
trying to see, Nuri and Mr. Minister, this is the problem. How I see the problem is this. We have lost our people in whom we invested a substantial amount of money to train to the first world labor market. And so I think that the reason we have returned to the Cubans was a twofold reason. One, we didn't have enough trained people, and then along the way, the people we succeeded in training, we lost part of that labor force. And so the Cuban labor force became a substitute labor force. And where in international law is it written that you are not allowed to employ people from another country? Any country of your choice. Where is that written? That's not written anywhere in international law. And nowhere turns to the foreign labor market more than the United States of America. So, number one, has this been quantified? Because you see, when you're going to deal with these people, you need figures. Can't go with no vague arguments, exact figures. This is what we have lost to you all. This is what we don't have, all of this, and this is what we need. Has that been done, Mr. Minister, with this problem vis-a-vis the United States of America, based, as I said, on an unjust, unfair, illegal, and illegitimate situation? So we turn to the foreign labor market. Where in law is that written that you can't do? And the U.S., is this a sanction that has been overseen by the Security Council of the United Nations? Is this a sanction that they have implemented? Then if it's not a sanction that's implemented by the United Nations, on what grounds are we going along with this sanction? But it's a sanction that has to do with our right to employ whom we want. Evidently, you're hoping that the people that government is going to employ properly trained people. But there's no reason to assume that hasn't been done up to now, at least overall. So on what grounds? And I want to know, has this been put to them? That's number one. Number two, if they are part of the reason for our brain drain, then they are part of the reason for our lack of medical personnel of our own, which compounds the problem. Have you all quantified that and put it to these people? I don't know. But what I do know is what the caller before said. Nobody has any right to dictate to us. We cannot get this concept of sovereignty practiced upon by any other party unless we are prepared to practice it ourselves and pay the price for its practice. Pay the price for its practice. It's hardly comprehensible that we are going to jeopardize the health of a nation for some little money that we want to get from them for some other very nebulous and whimsical reason that could hardly be. So this is my contribution. Let's get this argument on the labor market, the international labor market and its effect on us. And not to mention the brain drain, because a brain drain accompanies that.
Yeah.
They offer our people more money, and our people, well, they want more money, and they are eager to get into that world out there, so they go over there. Yeah. And then we are left holding the bag. We are left holding the bag for what we paid for their training, and left holding the bag for a lack of labor.
Very good.
So I do hope that would be. My second question is this, Mr. Minister. It's on the matter that Nuri brought up. You said it's in law, and it has never been implemented. Well, there are a lot of things in law in Belize, and we don't implement them. But, Mr. Minister, when people have chronic ailments, they are generally, 99% of the time, on medication that will only keep them stable. Won't cure them, will keep them stable. Curing may need another procedure that they can't access or that isn't yet available, or they'll have to do a slight change in order to get that corrected that way. Now, if a medication is being used to keep you stable, why is it necessary for the doctor? When you and the doctor are agreed, when you go back to the doctor, it's the same medication he's going to prescribe again. He's going to give you a new one. And I can tell you, Mr. Minister, right across the border in Mexico, for a number of chronic, and we are a population plagued with chronic illness now. Not only for older people, for younger people and all, they are part of the chronic disease syndrome. So that is going to create, unfortunately, you all may not have thought of it. I am willing to grant you that. But it's going to create a money-making machine for the medical community, including the government medical community, which will be paid out of money that I do not support. However, my people are willing to go along with that, out of Bolido and lottery. Why not save that money, Mr. Minister, for tertiary level care when our people cannot afford that? Once the health problem hits tertiary care, generally you're going to see people die because the cost is prohibitive. And build up a fund, divide the money you're allocating for primary, secondary, and tertiary, and build up a fund, because tertiary care, our people generally can't afford that, and that's when they die. So why siphon off the money now into the medical community through the private-public arrangement? Why? I can see antibiotics, and even that's, if we're going to correct antibiotics, when are we going to correct the use of antibiotics in the post-industrialized poultry production in this country? When are we going to correct the use of antibiotics in the industrialized grain production of this country? Not antibiotics, that is chemicals, glyphosate. So a lot of our sicknesses are being caused by those things. And then when those cause the sickness, then we have to go on a medication regime. So I just really wish that it would be a broad, comprehensive, bearing and keeping in mind the tradition. Mr. Bernard, you may not have been saved, but I am 78. And the amount of people who have been saved in this country from dying by being able to go to the pharmacy, discuss with the pharmacist, Mr. Bennett, Mr. Lopez, Mr. Usher, Mr. this and Mr. that, Mrs. Kiola Prince, a problem, and the pharmacist makes a recommendation, and those people go home and get. And then you may think that costs are not being increased, but even if they go to the public health, you'll have to wait an interminable amount of time. And if you're aged and in disabled, you're going to need taxi to go, taxi to come back. My impression is that this thing hasn't been comprehensively analyzed.
Yep.
Provided for back.
Thank you very much, Sister Sandra. Yeah. You could address that more important than my question.
Let me say this, as I think I had mentioned part of it in my early discussion. Nowhere in the world, and with all respect to Ms. Sandra Koi, I hear her. She's always a passionate person, but nowhere in the world would anybody be allowed, no country be allowed to buy prescription drugs over the counter. So let's get that absolutely clear. However, this does not mean enforcing the regulation does not mean that you have to see a doctor monthly. Why I say this? Because doctors can prescribe with refills. When the doctor prescribes your medication, it can clearly specify there that I am prescribing refills of X amount of this medication for a specific period of time. And chronic illnesses need monitoring, Nuri, and precise management, as has been said to me over and over when I've had this discussion with my director of public health. And you have to have these specific management so that in order to reduce complications and as well to avoid early deaths. You've seen that we have been losing persons early from complications like heart attack and strokes and clots, because of the fact that sometimes people do not necessarily realize that these chronic diseases needs monitoring, and so you have to go back to your doctor. You have to be checked. You have to have constant it's with your doctor so that you are able to, you know that you're on the right treatment. Insulin, for example, if misused, can cause some severe complications and even death. And so, but again, as a patient, as a person on medication, you can also discuss with your pharmacist, and there is a wide array of drugs that you can buy over the counter. And again, I will say there's no new law that has been created. These things exist. We're just making sure in having discussion with the Farmers Association that we're enforcing these manners.
Yeah, I think though that if
but
you
to
heard,
go back to the first question,
I'm gonna go back there, but I just want to clear up what I think I hear you saying in regards to what Ms. Koi just said. In fact, when she talked about there was a time when you could actually go to a pharmacist and explain your situation, that pharmacist probably knows you and probably knows the regime that you were on, and therefore is able, without another renewed prescription, to say, I know that this is what Mr. So-and-so had been taking for years. Here it is, all right? We are probably at a different time now where we don't have those personal contacts that we used to have many, many years ago. So I understand, and I would not fight against the need for us to have proper prescription in order for us to know that the drug that we're taking is the prescribed drug. I know that. But I would think that that is for those people who sometimes will give somebody a pill, say, boy, this may work for me, and so therefore, so I could understand you're trying to stop that, because that is a very dangerous trend, even though sometimes that will work for you. But it's not a good practice. But I think what she's saying, and I was also saying it to you, is that the system has need to be addressed in these areas. We are looking at doctors who many times are double dipping. They are working for paying back their bond. They were given a scholarship to go and study, and so they are told you need to give back a certain amount of time. But the system, not just since your tenure, but long, long before you, there was the complaints of doctors who would be in the public for a while, but also they have their private practice. And so you're having a situation where I'll give you so much attention in the public sphere, but if you really want more, particularly in tertiary level concerns, you need to go out to my private clinic. Not only are we seeing doctors that are double dipping, but we're now seeing doctors who own pharmacies. So they're in the public sector, they're in the private sector, and when you want to get your medication, they're also there in medication. And then, as Ms. Koi is bringing up, the latest information is that the Bolido proceeds will now go to expand NHI. But as you and the Prime Minister explained NHI, some of the providers for NHI are those same private doctors again. So now you're ending up taking my money out of my Bolido, I don't buy it, but you're taking money out of the public coffers to pay these private doctors, because when you want to stretch out the NHI into Cayo and these areas, we don't have enough public doctors to be able to service NHI. So NHI now becomes a sort of a double dip again for private doctors who are going to be paid. Now I know that the other media houses have already dealt with this question with both you and the Prime Minister, but I'd like you to address it again here, where we're dealing with some doctors that really need to check their Hippocratic oath, because they're like, well, a lot of double dipping is going on, and I'm not saying it's you, but you are the person responsible for the entire healthcare system in Belize. Your answer, sir.
Let me point out that one thing, Nuri, and in some case there is facts to some of those points. We have seen some challenges, and I know that had been existing. But one of the things we have been doing to fix that problem, in terms of to answer the question in terms of the bond, because you remember when somebody was bonded at the time, the bond actually speaks of you coming back to work in Belize and not necessarily in the public health system. However, going forward in this year, in 2026, is that we will bond these doctors that they have to come back to work in the public health system. So when they retouch it, they now need to come back to work in the public health system in Belize to provide a service for an amount of years. And so that answered that part of it. However, where there's those challenges, and we have, if we were able to pick up on these situations, we have been trying to address them, whether through the Medical Council or through, in the case of Carl Hishner, they have their own management structure. They've been trying to their very best to address those concerns. So we have seen and we have heard some of these instances, but we know where sometimes it exists, and it's terrible. And I've said this more than one time. It shouldn't be countenanced. It shouldn't be allowed. And so we've been working very closely to ensure that we minimize these type of things. But I wanted to go back to Ms. Sandra's point and the previous caller in speaking about the fact that she asked if we quantified the effects of if we were to. We're not there yet in the sense that the discussions that are being had. And of course, the ministry has provided to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, because it's not the Ministry of Health who are having these direct discussions on the diplomatic level. It's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. However, we have provided the substantive data, the substantive information to the ministry to showcase what's the cost of keeping these doctors and these nurses in these regions that are spread across. As I said, majority of it is in the south. There are some in the Belize district in terms of called Hishna, and of course the western region. A minimal amount in the north, but they are spread across the rural communities. So we have quantified that. We have put those numbers together. We have identified where the gaps are going to affect us if we were to have been affected in this manner. Now, we are not sure yet what will be the final outcome and final decisions. And as I said, I'm pretty sure the discussions that are being had with both governments, the U.S. government and the Cuban government, is the fact that Belize cannot afford to simply get rid of 92 health professionals in one sweep. And if that was to happen, we would strain our health system. I don't necessarily agree that the entire country will fail. We are resilient people. We've seen what we've been able to manage during COVID. We have great people in the health system, committed nurses and doctors across this country that have Belizean that are here working tirelessly every single day. And I constantly, when I get an opportunity, I offer my thanks to them for their compassion, for their service. And I can tell you that it is our hope, it is our vision that whatever outcome occurs, we are prepared to ensure that we can hold the fort together as a people and to be able to provide effective service for the Belizean people. But as I keep saying, Brother Nuri, because the gentleman said, whether myself or the Prime Minister, and I'm pretty sure he's speaking in general, would rather fight for this country. We have been doing what we can do as a country, as a ministry, in planning for the betterment of our healthcare system, to provide better, to fill those gaps. Because no matter, even with the existing brigade, there are still gaps in the system. There are still areas where we're unable to fill vacancies. If I was looking at the data just a while ago, there are still a couple amount of vacancies across the ministry in terms of medical officers and nursing, and so that we need to fill.
Yeah,
and so
I think
while
though,
we
Minister,
are training our people, while we are doing all of these things, we have to also understand
I hear you.
that as
you're
a
looking,
country itself,
you're looking futuristically.
We have to ensure we are building that capacity.
I understand. You're looking
That's
at
right.
the future, but I think the point I made earlier, and I think Ms. Koi drove it home, is that this is also a question of precedence. Where can we find this? Where in law can we find that you can endanger your people, you can in fact cause a health problem with your people because you're being forced to extract a critical part of your healthcare system, your personnel, which you need in order to provide service to people in areas that are remote, and that if you remove that, you're going to create multiple problems for yourself. And maybe when we talk about collapse, it doesn't mean collapse overnight, but it means your people will die increasingly if you are not paying attention to their healthcare needs. And she's asking, is there a legal precedent for this? Can you go and find where, for example, the United Nations would sanction something like that? That, yeah, Belize, we know some of your people are dead because you remove these essential people, but yes, you have to acquiesce to what this other country, the United States, is demanding for diplomacy purposes. For diplomacy. That's what they're doing. They're not saying this is essential to their safety and their security. They're saying for diplomacy purposes, we want to punish those people, and we want you as our friends to go along with our agenda to punish them by sending home these essential persons that provide you something that is important to you. So it's a legal question, Minister Bernard. It's not only what we are seeing that can happen to us, over the next 2 or 3 years if we don't have these people to replace this brigade, but isn't there a question there of us taking the United States to the Security Council and say, look how many of our people have died over the last 2 or 3 years because you have forced us to retract or to send home these essential persons to our healthcare system. I'll give you that as your last word, sir.
Nuri, as I said, these discussions that are being had at the diplomatic level encompasses various aspects of the needs for Belize in terms of healthcare personnel, and to look at its impacts if there should be. And I said I'm very optimistic that these discussions could yield into positive results. Again, we don't know whether we will end up going that route or not, or whether there will be common ground hit in terms of, okay, you know what, let's look at other options in terms of how, maybe a possible status in terms of change for these Cuban people who are here. At the end of the day, Nuri, and I want to assure the Belizean people that as a ministry, as a Minister of Health and Wellness, and as a government, we remain committed to the health care of our people. We've been investing in health, health personnel. We have been planning for any shocks, whether it's shocks in the world that affects us in various aspects, or for any future pandemics that may come. We, as a country, and as a ministry, we've been doing our utmost best, as I said, to build capacity, and that's our goal. At the end, is it that we want to ensure that we are providing equal, equitable, and fair health to our Belizean people, and that's as long as I am the Minister of Health and Wellness, and I'm pretty sure that the Prime Minister, whose heart is in health as well, is committed to ensure that we make those investments. And of course, investing in NHI, investing in primary care, because prevention is better than cure. We don't want to see our people ending up in the ICU. We want to ensure that by the time they get to our secondary care facility, they are properly managed, they are treated. And that's the reason why we have to invest in primary care. We have to invest in the necessary services. And while we do it both in NHI and the government system, it's an investment worth investing in. And if investment in health at this level is important for the betterment and the better results that can come for our people. So I just wanted to share to you and to those listening and viewers, again, that we remain committed. We are where we are at this point, but again, I remain hopeful that we can possibly see a positive way through this, but we also have to ensure that our plans that we have put in place are there so that we could plan and prepare for future events. And so we have to build our human resource. We have been doing that. We have been working on that. We have done a lot of changes in terms of pay scales for doctors to try to, we have put in retention packages for nurses, so to kill the brain drain. We've increased allowances for medical officers. So all of these things, Nuri, we've been doing so that we could keep our people in the system. And again, going forward, any persons, any doctors who are sent out on scholarship to train will then be bonded to work in the public health system so that we can have them to be able to provide that service, that very needed service for Belizean people.
All right, Minister Kevin Bernard, we appreciate your presence. I mean, I know that it's been a rigorous time, but you've stayed the course and you've answered the questions.
Thank you.
We appreciate very much your having been here. And thank you very much for your last word. We give you great respect for the work that you do, sir. And we do hope that we will get a chance to talk with you down the road. All the best to you.
Thank you, and wish everybody a safe Easter holiday.
All right, sir. Very good. All right, we'll take our final break and come back, and we'll close up for this morning.
The Belize Tax Service has been serving the country well since its inception. But like many tax administration systems worldwide, it faces new challenges that require modern solutions. The Semi-Autonomous Revenue Authority, SARA, will be established by legislation that will modernize how Belize administers taxes. Countries across our region, Jamaica, Barbados, and Guyana, have undertaken similar efforts at modernization, and we're using their experiences, successes, and challenges to design a SARA specific to our tax landscape. SARA will operate under the Ministry of Finance with an advisory board comprised of experts in finance, tax, law, and public administration who will provide sound guidance while maintaining the required oversight of public funds. SARA will provide the framework for modernizing tax administration, improving the way we serve taxpayers, and supporting Belize's development. A semi-autonomous revenue authority, SARA, will create opportunities for improving human resource management, accelerating digital transformation that reduces turnaround time and paperwork, and providing more responsive customer service while maintaining strict accountability standards. SARA, a progressive tax administration for a modern Belize.
Smart for everybody. Smart leading everything. Smart give you everything. Smart offer everything. Smart give you everything. North to the east and the south and the west. Smart are the best, darling. Double up my data and give me all the text. In fact, give me a plan for my family. Unlimited calls, so me like it. And Smart make everybody feel happy. Bringing people together, me want it now. Smart got love for everybody. Me want my Smart plan, want it right now. Me want my Smart plan, want it right now. More bundles, data plan. Me want my smartphone, internet in my hand. Call me want my Smart plan, want it right now. Smart, stay connected, stay happy.
Oh gosh, I'm say the fretting up of the hair are flexing. I'm say the frowning up on me hair is wearing. Whoa.
En Atlantic Bank, tu comodidad es nuestra prioridad. Nuestro centro de contacto está diseñado para mejorar tu experiencia bancaria. Con una amplia gama de opciones de servicio al cliente, ahorras tiempo y esfuerzo. Puedes llamar fácilmente para bloquear o desbloquear tus tarjetas de débito y crédito, realizar consultas de cuentas y acceder a información detallada de tus tarjetas. Ya sea que necesites asistencia con la banca en línea, apoyo para comercios o consultas generales, nuestro equipo está listo para ayudarte. Para mayor comodidad, si todos los operadores están ocupados, puedes dejar tu número y un operador te devolverá la llamada lo antes posible para asegurarse de que recibas el apoyo que necesitas. Para mayor seguridad, es posible que necesitemos verificar tu identidad con un conjunto de preguntas sencillas. Recuerda, Atlantic Bank nunca solicitará tu nombre de tu usuario ni contraseña de Atlantic Online por llamada telefónica, mensaje de texto o correo electrónico, asegurando que tu información personal permanezca segura y protegida. Nuestro equipo de apoyo está disponible de lunes a viernes, de 8 a.m. a 6 p.m. en inglés y en español. Simplemente marca al 223-1212 Esta es la línea dedicada para nuestro centro de contacto. Atlantic Bank se compromete a brindarte un servicio excepcional y las herramientas que necesitas para administrar tus finanzas de manera conveniente y segura. Aprovecha al máximo nuestro servicio del centro de contacto.
Atlantic Bank, building the future together.
Explore the great outdoors with Benny's Quality and Savings.
It's a very interesting conversation there with the Minister of Health and Wellness. Thank you very much, Brother Kevin Bernard, for being open and, fielding the questions as you have. And we appreciate your openness. And we thank those who called in likewise to make the calls, the show a little bit more robust. Thank you very much, Sister Sandra. You're an asset to our conversation every morning, and you bring fresh ideas, never stale ideas, and really that tells you an intellect that is always fresh and able to stay current, is not a lazy mind, and we appreciate that input there, Sister Sandra, at 78 years old. I want to read something very briefly. I'm not going to read all of it. It is from the Professor C. Justin Robinson, Pro Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal of the University of the West Indies Five Island Campus. And he writes something titled A Modern Day Siege, Cuba, the Caribbean, and the Architecture of Coercion. I'll just read the first paragraph. The medieval warfare, the siege, was the weapon of patient cruelty. Armies did not need to breach the walls. They simply encircled the city, cut off its food and water, its fuel, and simply waited. The logic was elegant in its brutality, starving the population until it surrendered its leaders, its sovereignty, and its will. The siege required no declaration of war, no formal hostility beyond the act of encirclement itself. It was violence administered through denial. What is unfolding in Cuba today is such a siege, not a metaphor, but in its method. It goes on to give more detail, but I think that first paragraph encapsulated the idea of this comment by this professor, and that is that we are in real time not in a storybook, not in a historical narrative of years ago, but in real time, are watching, in fact, the breakdown of a system and a people. You may disagree with communism. You may say, I don't agree with that form of government. You might even criticize the philosophy and the ideology of Fidel Castro. But what you can't do is deny the impact that they have had, not only in Belize, but the entire Caribbean region. And if you jump beyond that into Africa, they have assisted not only Namibia, but they have gone into different areas and have bled and died in those areas for the sake of trying to bring those countries into the freedom and independence that they enjoy today. They came into Belize as an assistant to us. I could remember when they were assisting us even in our literacy campaigns. I remember when our brother Andy Palacio, who's passed on now, was one of the first to be a part of this literacy campaign into different parts of the country to try to get our people on board when it comes to understanding their constitution. You can't understand your constitution if you don't know how to read, and you can't read if you don't know how to comprehend. And whether you realize it or not, we have dropped in our competence level when it comes to literacy in this country when compared to where we were 50 years ago. So we need to understand that these Cubans played an instrumental role not only in the medical area, but in many other areas of our country. And for them now to be suffering as they're suffering, and for us to just go on as we go on, you know, bailar if we want bailar, enjoy the weekend because, yeah, this is our festive weekend, or we enjoy ourselves. While our people, and they are our people, are going through situations where, man, they can't even get milk on the table. They can't go to doctors because the doctor in the hospital don't have the fuel to make the hospital machines they work so that the doctors can proper diagnosing and proper treatment for them. So it's a slow death, like they say here. It's a siege surrounding them, making sure food and water and the other things don't go in. Look, this is not just a passionate plea, but this is just an understanding that I am echoing that a lot of you feel. You just don't have the forum to say it, but you are feeling the same thing about the injustice of this. Foolish is the man who stands up and says, boy, good for them because they're not communists anywhere, we'll get rid of all of them communists. Foolish is that man that makes such a statement. If you don't realize that they have been the Good Samaritan. They saw Belize in the struggle that we were in before independence, and they were one of the first to stand up. Or have you forgotten about the non-aligned movement? Have you forgot that it was Cuba that stood up and was able to convince some of these other Latin American countries? What's his name? Trudeau. The former Panamanian minister, prime minister, or president, general, I forgot his name, but you know who I'm talking about. That these were the persons who stepped out of the boat of safety and the threats of the Americans that they are going to support Belize's independence. It wasn't America that was supporting our independence. They were against it. It was the Cubans. It was those persons in Panama that started to cause the rest of the Central American countries to come on board. Don't think that the way they are now cozying up with us in Sika, that they were always there. They were not there 50 and 40 years ago. They were on the other side saying that Belize should belong to Guatemala, as the Americans were saying. So please, let us not forget that when you have a friend and a friend treats you a certain way, you have a responsibility to not forget that friend and that gesture that that friend showed you. It's the same thing in a personal affair as it is in the international body. You can't let your friend go through problems and you are up there trying to maneuver how I could please this emperor and make my friend not think that at the dropper. You're the drop way. You're the drop way. And Cubans are not stupid. They know what they have done for the Caribbean. So they're people. Not let me get into Cesar Chavez and Petrocarib and how we just watch them assault. It's not Madero. It's not Madero. It's illegally, unlawfully going in there and arrest. If you want to take the man to the United Nations, not carry under your own court. So we have been forced to look at these illegal, internationally unacceptable procedure, but they got us cowed down to the fact that we small. That's why I respect Israel, you know. Israel smaller than every place where we got other Belize. Small. But he big, he huge. And he huge because, yes, he got American backing, but those people are willing to die for what they believe in. And we have a tendency to try to see where we could find defense where we could easily get out. We got to change that, Belizeans, and it's not because we are not individually brave. It's not because we're not individually willing. I work with a group of people there. I could tell you how brave we are at that street level. Willing to die in what we believe in. But as we go up, we start finding easy way to get along with the emperor. Boy, you have to watch yourself, you know. You could talk tough, but you can't. So somehow it don't look good. So I am closing here by just saying that, you know, this matter of Cuba and what is being done to Cuba is not something that we should deal with ideologically, but rather as a humanitarian. We cannot afford for people who were stretching out, helping us in our time of need, that we are so cowed down and afraid to tell the emperor, no man, you know, this matter here, you close not the anata, you know, gata no close, man. This is wrong, it's violating international precedent, so stop it. Anyway, I want to thank Larry Guerrero downstairs in the simulcast. Upstairs we have Christy Flowers as our MCO this morning. And of course we have Mr. Clifton Lewis, always there, always supporting, always in the background. Belizeans, stand strong and stand firm and do the right thing. For now, we gone. Reason. Nobody feel left out, is the vibe we dealing. Let's find a solution. Yeah. Love, respect, unselfishness and cooperation. That's how we need to build a strong nation. We are the people to make the changes. We are the changes to obey. And all the things that must happen and not got blue skies. And nothing that people get victimized. Let's work together for better. We got to unite. Belize, wake up, Belize.